Looking good, Italian job.
Feeling good, Tommy boy. How you doing, man?
Good, man. Gearing up for the holiday week. I don't know how it is where you are, but our local school district is giving the students and faculty a whole week off next week. So,
whoa,
yeah, took full advantage of that. We've got a few things planned. And then, honestly, Thanksgiving in the Phillips household has always been hunker down and just get quiet, get still, and enjoy a rowdy dinner. But building up to that, it's quiet time and relaxation and just being thankful. How about you?
Good. Well, our house is starting to look like the Vanderbilts moved in. My wife has convinced me, and by convinced me, and she has said, I got the ornaments out of the attic. Can you get the trees? So we have started decorating for Christmas. So it's almost like we bypassed Thanksgiving, went right to the Christmas holiday season. I've been convinced to put out the Christmas inflatables and things in the yard tomorrow, which would be Saturday, the day that this pod drops. So we are going directly into the Christmas season, and we will take a short pit stop for some turkey on Thursday.
That's borderline flag on the play. That's like a 10-yard penalty.
Listen, I have no say in this. Happy wife, happy life. You know how this game is
That's
played.
true. That's true. Well, we are, I think, if I'm not mistaken, by my count, we are two whole hands worth of fingers into episode 10 of Stuff We're Trying podcast. So for the guys who have been reaching out, giving us feedback, giving us compliments and ideas, keep it coming, fellas. This is great. This is your podcast. Stuff Worth Trying is only going to be successful if guys are sharing the stuff that they're doing that is making an impact in other men's lives. So keep it coming. We are available on Twitter at F3SWT or on the web at stuffworthtrying.com. So Italian Job, it's episode 10. What are we focusing on today?
Today we are talking about shield locks. The value of a shield lock. First off, what is a shield lock? The value of a shield lock. What are the successful elements of a shield lock? How do you get into a shield lock? Why you should be in a shield lock? So the topic, if you haven't figured it out yet, the word of the day is shield lock. So a shield lock.
Brought to you by the letters F and the number 3.
F3. So good stuff. Yeah, that's what we're talking about today.
Outstanding. This is great. This is the kind of stuff, it's a drug out statement, but where the rubber meets the road, right? These are the things that you read about in Free to Lead or in Q Source. And here's an opportunity to really take what you are absorbing and put it into action. We hope you're doing that already, but obviously if you're a newer region, you're drinking from the fire hose. You're just trying to recruit and as many guys and give this thing away. Here is an opportunity to take it to the nth degree. This is truly F3 in action, because everything that you're aiming to achieve can come to fruition through a solid shield lock.
So I got a question for you, TB. When I say the word shield lock, what comes to mind visually? Not the word shield lock, just visually. What do you think of when I say shield lock?
Yeah, a dude in a beard and a tunic kicking another guy into a pit, yelling, "This is Sparta." I always think
going to 300 way.
Yes, I always think of the cover of 300, the scene of the Spartans down on the beach, vastly outnumbered, and literally front line crouches down, puts their shields out front, second line throws their shields over those guys, so on and so forth. It's like a gigantic tortoise shell of rage and acceleration, because those guys are no joke. But yeah, in my mind, that's literally I couldn't be more literal when I hear shield lock. How about you?
Exactly. I think of the concept of being protected on all sides, no matter what is coming towards you. If it's spears, if it's swords, if it's arrows, if it's horses, when you build when you lock your left arm into that shield next to the guy next to you, into his shield next to the next guy, you are literally building a wall against the attacks of life. And this is one of those cool parallels that you see with our nomenclature that we use with the vernacular in F3 of shield lock, and how it ties so well into a different meaning for shield lock. We are not physically locking shields, but what we are doing is we are building a wall. As the ups and downs, the trials and tribulations come our way, we are locking shields with our brother next to us so that we can shoulder the blow and get through it.
Yeah, it's and if guys aren't following the Q Source on Twitter or on the Slack channel, definitely do that. Short Circuit does a lot of visual graphics for, oh, that was redundant. Visual graphics does a lot of graphics that are visual that you can see with your eyes. There's a powerful one for Shield Lock, and if you are reading Q Source, take some time and go back and refresh on Shield Lock. If you are not reading Q Source, order it, or simply go into the Slack channel and find the chatter around Shield Lock. It's definitely worth your time. To piggyback on what you said in F3, this is an opportunity to get a guy on your left and a guy on your right. 3 to 5 guys is kind of that magic number that you're accountable to and accountable for week to week. It's a way to check in, to make yourself vulnerable, and to validate your journey with one another through challenges, trials, errors. But you're being honest with each other. You're being open. You're each week it's going to look different from Shield Lock group to group. But I know each week with us, we lay it all out there and we check back in. Here's the 3 things I said. Here's where I am. Here's where I am not, and how I could use some help.
Yeah, I like that. We often refer to it as an essential guardrail in life. It's part of the concentrica. You've got your M, your most important relationship. That's your wife, right in the middle. You've got your shorties, your 2.0s on the outside on that next ring. And then you start working your way into the Shield Lock ring. And that's that group of men that we're talking about, your accountability partners of sorts. Then you've got your blades, your stones. And then you kind of work your way all the way to the outside, which is where your mammon or your work is. So when you think of the rungs and what's most important, your wife in the middle, your kids next, the next one is your Shield Lock. And that's where we're focusing on today. Like you said, 3 to 5 guys. It's a horizontal relationship to protect and enrich all of us. And that's kind of the definition of the Shield Lock. So in your words, just why should a man be in a Shield Lock? Why is it important?
I think the key word actually that you mentioned is why a man, right? So we've seen time and time again. I feel like I've seen it 3 times this week. The stage that we are in our late 30s, 40s, 50s as a man, and guys who love F3 are discovering what it's like to be surrounded by friends, peers, guys who are looking out for you, vice versa. But also the flip side of that is guys who have not found this, and how that turns into malaise, and how malaise, if unchecked, can turn into depression. And sadly, we've seen too many guys make a permanent decision to a temporary problem when it comes to depression, right? So in my own words, why should you be in a Shield Lock? It gives you purpose. We've talked a lot about purpose the past couple episodes, and this is a way that your purpose is actualized through your peer group, through your horizontal relationship, to use your word as well.
Very cool. I think of it as, it's kind of the same biblical principle that you see in Ecclesiastes. A cord of 3 strands is not easily broken. It also talks about when you're down, your brother can be there to lift you up. And I think of this as, we live in cyclical days where some days I'm up on a hill and I'm riding high, and my buddy may be down in the ditch. And so it's my opportunity to lift him up. And there are times when I'm in the ditch and I need somebody to lift me up. That's one of the reasons we have so many guys in a Shield Lock, because you're looking for, it's the law of averages. The chance of 5 guys being in the ditch at the same time is very minimal. Our goal is to accelerate, not only in our fitness, but also in our fellowship, in our faith. I mean, we are to accelerate and get better. And if I'm left to my own devices, I can attest and assure you, I will not be accelerating for long. I will fall into my selfish ways, and I will go down a path that is not good for me. It's not good for my family. It's not good for my community. I will decelerate on my own. So I need men to keep me accountable. And that's one of the reasons that we meet as a Shield Lock on a weekly basis, in my case, with the men that I Shield Lock with.
Yeah, absolutely. The guardrail component is what's so critical with this. And speaking of, what makes a Shield Lock successful and things like that, let's talk for a moment about what those elements are. What makes a Shield Lock successful? How do you know that you're building it the right way?
Yeah, that's really good. You have to think about, if you just get together with a group of guys, that can be a club. for instance, I'm a big Carolina Panthers fan. I've got crap all over the walls in the basement. I'm part of the Roaring Riot fan club. And it truly is a group of people who get together because they like the Panthers. That's a club. It's no different than a book club. Is just an opportunity for people to get together and have conversation. It doesn't matter if you read the book or not. You show up at the book club just so you can have correspondence and relationship with other people. But I can tell you, the Roaring Riot and the local book club cares not about my acceleration. So there are three elements that we talk about when we say successful shield lock. One is proximity, and that means you have to be near somebody. And you think about it, if you were trying to have a proximate relationship, if you're trying to have a relationship, period, if I go back to friends that I had in college that I've lost track with and I no longer keep up with, no longer have those conversations, we're not proximate. We don't live in the same community. The folks that I'm proximate with are the men that I see on a morning basis at F3. So proximity is key. You have to be near somebody. Think of it as if you're locking shields, if those shields in a physical sense are not close, it's not going to work. If you have your shield and you're 5 miles away from me with my shield, when the attacker comes, we're both getting picked off one at a time. So you've got to be proximate. The second P is periodic. And periodic means you're getting together in a routine schedule. For my group, we get together every Thursday and we meet at the same place, but we are always, you have to make it a priority. You have to be periodic, because if you say, well, I can't make it this week, I'll be there next week. Next week turns into the next month, turns into never. That's how it works. You've got to be periodic. Think of it as preventive maintenance for your car. The reason you get oil changes is, one, to make sure that you have oil in the motor, two, to make sure that it's being lubricated properly. If you never change the oil, I don't think you're going to go 200,000 miles with that motor humming smoothly. So it's periodic. It's preventive maintenance. And then the last one is purpose. And this is where we fight the flux. This is where we have the emotional reaction to the peaks and valleys, the ups and downs in life, because it's not a matter of if it will happen, it's when it will happen. So locking the shields with the other man next to you, you hedge your peak against your brother's valley, and vice versa. So those three P's again: proximity, periodic, and purpose. And to just sum it up simply, you got to get together on a routine basis. You have to meet in person, and then you have to have a reason why you're getting together. If you don't follow the three P's, it's a club, it's convenient, and then that convenience doesn't stick around when times get tough. It burns off. You got to keep those three P's together.
Yeah, I'll tell you too, if you're meeting with a group of guys without purpose, you're going to wind up looking to everybody else in F3 like a glorified exclusive cafeteria that doesn't serve anyone. In fact, it serves the opposite purpose of it keeps everybody else away. I also think too, if guys are sitting here listening right now, they've just kind of cracked the book or they're just scratching the surface on shield lock. An important thing as you make your notes and consider launching into a shield lock is, where are you in your life's journey? If you're making your list towards the end of the year, gearing up for 2022, you're setting goals, you're thinking about what you want to die to in your life. If there's a jester that's chatting your ear up and you want to die to him, make that list and then look around your packs, look around your peer group within F3. Who are the brothers that are aiming to accelerate in those spheres as well? That matching, it needs to be intentional and it needs to take a little bit of time. It's great to hang out with guys that you enjoy mumble chatter with in the gloom, but that may not necessarily be the guy that you need to come alongside in a shield lock. For example, there's a lot of guys I can think of in F3 that I just enjoy being around. Our Nantan, who I passed the shovel flag, I'll use him as an example. Hell of a dude. On the flip side, it doesn't make sense for me at 45 with a kid in high school and a kid in 8th grade to come along and challenge my family acceleration as a leader in my family with a guy who has 2 girls that are already off planning weddings, they're empty nesters, so on and so forth. Doesn't take away from our friendship at all. It's just not an ideal coming together of shields that they don't lock up well, right? So don't get confused with because you're being exclusive as to how you're surrounding yourself with the guys that are going to help you accelerate, and guys that you can actually feed their fire as well, with being exclusive in your peer group within F3. Those are two different things. The fellowship is not affected by a shield lock, but it will be if you wind up picking 10 guys, or if you wind up misaligning. If you're trying to run the Blue Ridge relay and you're surrounded by 6 guys in the shield lock or 4 guys in the shield lock that are trying to improve their squat gains, that's probably not going to go over well when it comes to your first F goals. So again, think about who you're surrounding yourself with, be intentional, and the rest will start to fall into place, especially if you're following proximity, periodic, and purpose. Any other additional thoughts on that?
Yeah, so it's something that guys need to realize. Not every shield lock works. You meet a guy and you think this is going to work out well. Sometimes you're not feeding each other. You guys are not accelerating at the same pace in the same areas of life. And it's okay to walk away from a shield lock and form a new shield lock. This is not, you are not married to your shield lock partner. You can break that. There's not a covenant of sorts. You will know if the guy's the right guy. If it's not, let's just be a man about it and say, hey, this isn't working. I think that we should see other people. I mean, it sounds awful to say that, but if you guys are not accelerating at the same speed, then it's probably not going to work. So there are a couple, we mentioned about the things that make a successful shield lock, but there's also a couple things to keep in mind. And we've already mentioned it. One, it's accelerating at the same pace. So that means if you are, to use the fitness element again, if you're a marathon guy and you're constantly running, and your shield lock partner is more of the rucker who wants to carry 80 pounds, and the thought of a marathon just turns his stomach, you guys may not be accelerating the same fitness. I'm not saying that marathoners and, runners and ruckers can't be in the same group. I'm using that as an example. It probably a better excuse, a better thing to think of is you've got a guy who weighs 160 pounds and a guy who weighs 260 pounds. You guys are probably not accelerating at the same fitness, at the same speed fitness wise. So you want to find somebody who's accelerating at the same speed that you are, but also you want to find a guy who has the same ideals, meaning you believe the same things, not necessarily religion, but you believe the same things. You believe in the value of insert something here, family. You believe in the value of service, whatever it is, you guys have to have the same ideals. It helps if you're a married man to be in a shield lock with another married man or group of married men. Because if you've got one guy out of a group of 5 who is having an extramarital affair and everyone else is, married and they are servicing and serving their families well. And then you have one guy who says, screw that, I'm not interested. He's not accelerating. Guess what he's going to do to your group? He's going to decelerate.
Slow everybody down.
So you've got to have the same ideals. What else do you think, Tommy boy? I mean, what about trust?
Yeah, well, I think that segues nicely into what I was going to dovetail with your last comment too. If you are, acceleration, I know I'm guilty from time to time thinking acceleration is just always about success. And in theory it is. But you have to, sometimes you start in a place of failure. So if you are a guy who has struggled with extramarital affairs, struggle with alcohol, struggle with some sort of an addiction, toxic relationships, find a guy or a group of guys that can help you accelerate in that area. If that's something that keeps appearing on your New Year's resolutions year after year after year, put that crap aside, make a goal, surround yourself with guys who are going to allow you to be accountable to that. A great example, I think about Doa, he would come in with his waistline, his FUPA, right? And he checked in each week and said, here's where I am, or here's where I am not. And the guys in his shield lock hold him accountable, or they celebrate with him if he's being successful. There is a sense of pressure, a positive peer pressure here, because you are putting yourself out there on Front Street. I do not like where I am with blank. by the end of blank, I hope to be blank. And those guys know what your blanks are, and they will hold you accountable to that. We don't have enough of that, I would argue, right now. People can go off and see, it seems like they can say whatever they think they want to say, but when they're held accountable, Lord knows the kettle boils over. So this is a great way to get used to bouncing back and forth between the guardrails until you figure it out as a shield lock. You're going to fight it. And if it's truly a goal worth achieving, it's worth the fight.
Mm-hmm. So one of the things that I've learned with my shield lock, and I've mentioned this a couple pods back and mentioned that our shield lock went on a retreat. And the reason that we got away and had our sole focus being on our shield lock was our conversations had become very surface level. The same conversations you would have with the guy in the grocery store, the weather, the sports, right. The very easy conversations. And we realized that we were no longer holding each other to a standard. We were just getting together and having breakfast, and it wasn't even that periodic. We realized that what we needed to do was to be honest with each other and to be vulnerable. And it's difficult for men to be honest and vulnerable, to say it hurts my feelings when this, or to say I'm struggling here. You got to realize that what's said in a shield lock doesn't go out for conversation elsewhere. That's where the trust is built in. I don't speak to my wife about the struggles that I hear from my shield lock partners, and they don't do that with their wives, because my wife actually asked me when we got home, what did you guys talk about this weekend? We just talked about getting better. I mean, what does that mean? We are just challenging each other to be better dads and husbands. I mean, exactly what does that mean? Well, it's just what
different
we're doing
for everybody.
And so I'm not going to say to anybody else outside of my shield lock, but that's what it's important to be vulnerable with the men, because if you're not vulnerable and you're not honest and you're not trustworthy, what are you really getting out of that outside of just getting together and lying to each other? I'm fine. It's fine. Everything's fine. Don't give me a church answer. Everything's fine. I need to know what's actually going on. Push a little bit deeper. And quite honestly, you're exactly right. We don't get enough of that. There's a lot of folks who hide behind the anonymity of the keyboard, and they say some things on social media platforms that they would never say in person. I need somebody to call me out for being a jerk, and my shield lock is willing, and quite frankly, are comfortable with calling me out, because that's what I need. I need someone to do that to me.
Yeah, definitely want to ask and demand of the guys to be that level with you. Hurt people are the ones who hurt people. So there's something going on behind that facade that we see, and we're not guilty, or we're not innocent of that either, right? There's something inside all of us that always could need a tweaking, a fine tuning, a change, an erasure, a replacement. And I say this probably way too often, but I truly believe that moments of vulnerability lead to life's validation. We've all been in that science class back in the day where we just didn't understand the words that were coming out of the teacher's mouth. Somebody raised their hand at the back of the class, said, "I don't understand. Will you please explain it again?" And everybody has this exhaustive breath of relief. Thank goodness somebody finally said something. Yep. Yeah. So be that guy. I think of the guys who have started things like Mental Battle, right? Somebody was vulnerable enough to say, "I'm not okay. I'm not fine. I don't want to give the church answer or the smiley, shiny, happy people answer. I'm not fine." And bunches of men went, "I'm not fine either. I'm glad you said something. Can we go grab a cup of coffee and talk through it?" This is, shield lock is that on steroids. It's an opportunity for a guy to be vulnerable in an effort to make the entire group stronger, validated, and moving forward together. For the guys who are in shield locks already and listening to this, I liked your suggestion. We're actually planning ours as well, of a retreat, for the exact same reasons. If you don't shake it up, scenery changes everything. Right. So you got to shake it up from time to time, even if it's meeting in a different spot. Maybe you go on a slowsy, right? And just fellowship pace and talk through some things one week just to shake it up a bit. We're also looking at next year's schedule of Grow Rucks. And where can we find ourselves in a place that all of us can sign up for the next Grow Ruck in the area, or get to an area that's convenient for all of us. that's certainly an opportunity as well to learn together. Doesn't mean you're going to stay together through the grill work experience because of how that's divided up, but it certainly is something you can come back and unpack together because you were there together. Mm-hmm. Running we talked about CSOP several episodes ago. Sign up for a CSOP together. Mm-hmm. Go to a place where that you guys can just get away, unpack some bags and repack them together, and leave accountable to something. Don't just go away for a dude's weekend away. There's parts of that should certainly thrive, but not the entire weekend, or else all you're doing is running away from your problems. Or who knows, maybe bring your problems with you, but be intentional about it and leave with goals, both personal and as a shield lock.
So I would be remiss if I didn't ask you to give a shout out to your shield lock partners. So who's in your shield lock that you want to give a shout out to?
Yeah, and I will precurse it by saying we are a big shield lock. But it started with the guy who got me involved in growing as a leader, and that was F3's first Nantan. So Wojo, and he saw something in me that I never saw in myself, and he really opened that door. So we were the two that came along beside each other first. But Wojo, Matlock, Earhart, Phoenix, STP, and I gotta go. See, I told you we were too big. And don't you know? And yeah, all of these guys, it's funny because when I think about, well, what would I change? But here's the thing. We're such a great fit because we're one guy pushes me in spiritual growth. Another guy pushes me in physical growth. Another guy pushes me in growth at home. So it really would be cutting off my nose to spite my face. Now, to that point, anybody who's listening saying that's too big, yeah, maybe it is. And maybe in a year from now we'll change, and that's fine too. But maybe we won't. So, small is good, but there isn't a set number. I will say this: if you can't get through your group in one sitting where everybody gets a chance to share, then something's wrong. That probably isn't fair to the full group because you're forcing it. Does that make sense?
It makes sense. And something
I forgot Gunny. I knew I was forgetting somebody.
You got it. You do have a big group. This is,
yeah.
Hey, podcast listener, this is one of those times when we should have compared notes beforehand. So you guys are seeing how the sausage is made. I'm going to jump into giving a shout out to our Shield Lock. Catfish and I have been in Shield Lock together, for 6+ years. We just recently added Pac-Man to the mix. And these two men challenge me in more ways. To be candid with you, these are the smart asses in the group who will say the things that everyone else is thinking. Solid dudes. Reborn is the disciplined dad, though I'm disappointed in you. He just has to give you a look and you're like, oh man. So Reborn is that guy. And then Smiley Face is the elder statesman and the spiritual leader of sorts of the group. Smiley always encourages us. And here's something that we try to do in our Shield Lock. When we get together, we want to ask, how's your first F? How's your second F? How's your third F? And the first F is pretty easy to tell. How's your first F? Well, you've gained weight, so probably not as good as you think. How's your second F? Well, I haven't seen you in a while. You've kind of fallen off. You don't respond to messages. What's going on? And the third F is the one that Smiley Face really hits us on. And he doesn't ask you questions like, how's your third F? He doesn't ask questions like, how's your spiritual life? He asks questions like, last time we were together, you said this. Mm-hmm. What have you done to fix it? And he's also the one who will hit you up and say, I'm just thinking about you. I want you to know I'm praying for you. And that goes a long way with our group. So, that's a little tidbit. Ask if you don't know what to ask in a Shield Lock when you're just getting started. Just ask, how's your first, second, and third F, and let it go from there.
That was perfect. I'm going to hop on my segue and lead us into next week's topic. Next week, I'm thrilled because it truly is one of my favorite times of the year. And it's when we dive into the 8 block that started years ago. I first heard of it from C-SPAN. So C-SPAN's going to come on, chat it up. But I say that because our shield lock uses that 8 block as scripture when it comes to where we are trying to move ourselves and to accelerate. It's a great exercise. I know a lot of guys know about it, but I always want to assume that there's a ton of men out there that have never heard it and this is their first time. So definitely check out next week's episode with the 8 block. It's a very simple exercise when it comes to setting it up. It requires some thought once it's set up, and it will literally guide you, if you let it, through an entire year's worth of growth.
Yes,
and then if you want to think about if that 8 block is your engine, then your shield lock is that drop of high ethanol, super duper rocket fuel gas. That's gonna get you through there even faster with a lot more intention. Yes, exactly. So there's a teaser for next week. I'm really thrilled. I think the world of C-SPAN, and if you've not had a chance to listen to his podcast, you're truly missing out.
I agree.
But before we sign off, what is our challenge worth trying going into the Thanksgiving week?
Yeah, so the challenge we're trying, it comes from 2 different areas. One, if you're not in a shield lock, you're hearing this maybe for the first time, or you've heard it 1,000 times, and now you're thinking, how do I get into a shield lock? Here's the challenge for you. Talk to somebody in your region who's part of a shield lock. If your region doesn't have shield locks, reach out to Tommy Boy or myself, and we can provide you some guidance. But start the conversation about being involved in a shield lock. If you are already in a shield lock, you are already living that way, there are men in your region who are not. So sometime this week in the COT, mention the value of a shield lock. Tell the guys around you why they should be in a shield lock. Encourage them to be part of a shield lock. Share your story. Tell them why you're in it and why it matters to you and why it would matter to them. So if you're not in a shield lock, take the step towards a shield lock. If you are in a shield lock, share your story about a shield lock. And that's your challenge worth trying this week.
I dig it. That's a great one to get into. Again, we're about to land this plane when it comes to 2021. So start setting those stones in place that are going to take you across the pond and into a successful January launch, because it's going to be here before you know it.
Yes, sir.
I'm certainly not a resolution guy, but I am a goals guy, and a goal needs a plan. So start setting those plans up, fellas. Take advantage of that COT, ask out, and then open your arms and look for the gifts to be given to you, because there's plenty of guys out there that are looking to give it away. Italian Job. It's Thanksgiving week, buddy. I'm thankful for you. I'm always thankful for our time together. Thanks for a great conversation, my friend.
It's always an honor, my friend. When I count my blessings this upcoming Thursday, I will certainly have you on that list. I appreciate you. I love you. And I look forward to our time getting together next week so that we can share a little 8 block talk with C-SPAN.
Awesome. Love you, brother. Cheers.
Love you, man.